enough for chitter chat. 10 minutes, I think that's enough. So let's get in through the solving. So 4 cosine squared of x minus 3x squared minus 1. The best way I like to understand these questions, guys, is just to look at this as a quadratic. So 4x squared minus 3x minus 1. So if I gave you this equation, right? Pretend like, forget about the cosines. Let's just deal with x. I could look at this and say, well, if this was 4, or I'm sorry, let's see. How could we factor this? The first two terms need to multiply to give me a 4x. So I have a couple options here, right? I could do a 2x and a 2x, or I could do a 4x and a 4x and a 1. And I see that 3 is a middle term, so I'm thinking initially that this is going to be factorable with a 4. So therefore, I'm thinking this is going to be a minus 1, and that's going to be a plus 1. So again, 4 times x is 4x squared. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And that gives you a positive x, and that gives you negative 4x. So very good. So that is the factored form when it was an x, right? But again, just let x equal cosine of x. So if you understand it from that regard, or if just say x equals cosine of x, therefore I could factor this to 4 cosine of x plus 1 times cosine of x minus 1 equals 0, okay? Now, as far as, yeah, there you go. Okay. So now I can go ahead and apply the zero product property. So 4 cosine of x plus 1 equals 0. And cosine of x equals positive 1. Now remember, cosine of x equals negative 1/4 here, and cosine of x equals 1. Okay. So remember, when we're using the inverse cosine function, right, that restriction is only between 0 and pi. So if cosine of x is equal to negative 1/4, that is not going to fall within our, no, actually we can have that negative 1/2, negative 1/4, but never mind, that's not going to work. That's not what I was thinking of. I was thinking of when it's larger than 1. But either way, I'm going to need to use a calculator for this, and I'm not going to be able to look at that. I guess I'll be able to, I guess I do have a calculator, so let's put this in radian mode. Yeah, because I can do cosine inverse of negative 0.25, and that's going to be 1.8. Right, so that's going to be second quadrant. So if cosine's negative, that means it's going to be some angle that's going to be in the second quadrant. Now, the student didn't ask, yeah, it's between 0 and 2 pi. So x is going to equal, I'll round this to the nearest tenth. So that's going to be x equals 1.8. That'd be radians. And then cosine of x equals 1. Well, that's going to be the angle 0, right? Because you can see here, 1 comma 0, cosine of x. So therefore, x is going to equal 0. And again, these are the angles, right? X represents the solutions or the angles that are going to make this equation true. And again, I am rounding that to the nearest tenth in this case. Sorry, just had to check my live strat real quick. Okay. So yeah, the one thing you just want to be careful of sometimes when we do these factoring, if it doesn't become an angle on the unit circle, sometimes it is going to be something that you would not be able to find the cosine inverse. But again, if you have a calculator, then you could obviously, that would give you like no solution there and you'd be good. But in this case, we can figure out the cosine of x equals negative 1/4, but we'd have to use a